Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Stepping Up with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. Today, we are doing Chapter 98. These, Tips pointed to the uneven set of tiles on the floor, are the ones you have to avoid between here and the intersection. Most just rearrange the layout of the halls, but a few will explode under you. How about we wait until you're done then? Jekyll asked. He shook his head. Stepping on any of them will change the floor, but we've worked out the sequence that resets it. If you accidentally, he glared at the fighter, step on one, I can make sure everything's right. Everything's the right way for us. He paused. Unless you step on an exploding one. I don't think I can. So don't think about trying something stupid. Why do you think I'd? Chico closed his mouth as Karina, Mez, and Kumdar stared at him. Fine, the fighter grinned. No thinking at all for me. Only way I can't come up with something stupid, right? If the absence of thought leads to a better performance out of you, Jackal, Kumdar said, then Karina must, once she has become an alpha sorceress, confine you to a university tower to be studied, for that will be an accomplishment worth replicating. It can be done. It can't be stoned, as said. It'll be too easy for him to get out of that and go right back to thinking. I'll have to make it metal, she said, and I'll make sure that he's restrained so he can't punch his way out. Crow is going to be pissed, the fighter said with a sigh. No, I'm pretty sure he'd like to know you won't be able to get yourself hurt anymore. Jekyll smirked. He likes taking care of me way too much for that. He likes taking care of me too much for that. Did I stop healing you then? Tibs said, distracted by the floor. He and the other rogues had spent so much time going over what each had learned from their run and drawing the maps of the floor with the proper sequence that Tibs was dreaming of them now. The problem was that in his dream, the sequence kept changing, and he kept changing anytime he thought he had it memorized. That left him uncertain it wouldn't change halfway through him setting the right triggers. The others argued good-naturedly about Jekyll's need to be restrained and Crossup's willingness to help as they traversed the hall, watching where they stepped. The intersection had the same floor of broken tile, but even those that were triggers in the hall were present there. But every rogue had confirmed that they were not triggers. Yet, he reminded himself, and he could change that anytime she wanted between runs. The idea things could change always made the runners nervous. It's so easy to grow complacent, and that could be the run where things weren't as you had grown used to. Tibbs hadn't asked Ganny about why she hadn't done that yet, because he hoped it was something that hadn't occurred to her. She tended to get lost in the setting up of the puzzle and the traps, and didn't see the weakness in them until confronted. Oof. She tended to get lost in the setting up of the puzzle and the traps. And didn't see the weakness until confronted with it. We're all here, Jekyll called. Tibbs looked over the map for this hall Tandy had insisted he bring. She made sure each row got a copy so they could update it as needed, and so they couldn't forget a crucial detail. Where she got the papers, all the papers needed, Tibbs had this suspicion. Maz had mentioned a few, Maz had mentioned a few times how his girls' households always seemed to be low on them. He activated a trigger as he walked, and he had been smart enough to make the sequence use a variety of shaped tiles, but they were in a straight order. He wasn't required to go back the way he'd come to follow it. Another weakness he hoped no one mentioned while inside the dungeon. He really wanted to tell them to never talk about the traps while in the dungeon, but the explanation of why would be problematic. The biggest complication Ganny had put in his path was how some tiles were clustered together so that one miscalculation or misstep would lead to the wrong one being pressed. It was also where most of the explosive triggers were. He was halfway through the hall when he activated the trigger that opened the main path in the first intersection. He felt that rumble in the floor, while the distant one the other triggers activated was so faint he sometimes didn't feel them at all, even while channeling Earth. Is getting the whole sequence correctly supposed to make the run easier? I'm going to ask, or harder? He shrugged. That's not what we're working on. It was easy to work out they did something, since avoiding them all only led to the wall with the three crests and the one with the lion, which clues us in that we need to find the other two. Which clues us in that we need to find two other doors, she said. Gerald made it to the door with the dragon quest. The dragon crest. Okay, so that. You know what? Wait. Yeah, maybe it's Tandy. Tandy made it to the door with the crest behind you. Behind is what she called climb. Word made of. Okay. You know what? Okay, I've already set up. Yeah, I've had a shuffling of puzzles in there. Okay. Beast Team. Beast Team reached the boar crest, but she isn't sure how they managed it. I'd like us to try to make that one so I can work on that pattern of triggers. I looked at the shield that was now on each of the intersections corner near the wall. Near at the top of the walls. Instead of one of the designs, they contain a green line going from the top to the bottom. That's how long we have to clear the floor. You can just make out a little red at the top. It's going to fill more as time passes. That's when the loot chest refill, right? Pickle asked gleefully. How long does that give us? As asked. And what happens if we're still on the floor when it's all red? I suspect, Lord said before Tibs could answer, it will be all red near zenith, as that is when the next team is set to enter. Now that enough teams were doing the third floor and had made sure the guild knew how complicated it was, the schedule had been changed. Teams who came back with loot from the third floor were put on the morning and on a morning and midday schedule. That meant 2 teams a day only. But as they were still under a dozen of them, it meant they got to at least it meant they got at least one run a week. They weren't required to head directly to the third floor, but Tibs suspected that focusing only on it would be the only way to unlock all the rooms and go through the games and all. The day was divided into 6 for the teams going no further than the second floor, and 12 for those only on the first floor. On the first one. So that's what, 6 hours? I said. That doesn't sound like enough for the entire floor, Turner said. It's because we're still figuring out how to get where we need to go and how each of the puzzle room works. Replied. Once we have that, the only thing that will slow us down are the fights and how quickly we can go through each room. I'm hoping I can get us the boar room. If not, we'll be able to get there by our next run and know what the puzzle in it is. Okay, then the plan is Jekyll rubbing his hand. We clear the caches on the way to the lion room. Win that game. Go to the dragon room. Clear those caches. Get that. Clear those caches. Tibs figures out how to open it. Wins the game. And it's us. And gets us to the ballroom. We win that. Then we go back to the lion room and wait for the fort to reset. Reset and no. Karen said in exasperation. That's not why. That's not why we set up the timer. And he said it with a smile. You really thought Jekyll wouldn't use it to get more loot? Dungeon's commenting on Jekyll's obsession as asked, Ganny, how is it I'm the only one who thinks more loot's a good thing? Jekyll asked in dismay. We all consider it a good thing, Condor said. But we realize that taking the loot from those rooms means it will not be there for the next team. What will the runs become if each team decides to interfere with the next one, instead of helping them as they are now? You must think of the long term. You mean like we get more loot in the long term if we take more in the short term? The fighter asked, grinning. What do you think the guild's going to do when they find out we're staying past the end of our run? They're going to ask, and before you give me snark, remember that Harry is the one making those decisions? Jekyll grumbled unhappily. If it helps, Stowe said, tell him that if he doesn't redo a room, it means I'm left with more essence, and that means that in the long term, I could increase the value of the rewards each room gives. Couldn't we be keeping that extra essence for the next floor? Tibs asked. We've come across something on that floor that, well, it's helping a lot, in a lot of ways too. The main thing is that it's not going to need as much essence as Ganny had calculated to set it up, but we are going to have to rethink the whole thing around that. You don't take from the other teams, Tibs told Jekyll, Stowe can slowly increase the value of the loot we get the next times. But he can keep it the same if I take the extra loot, right? Stowe groaned. Tibs chuckled. What did you think he'd say? His greed knows no limit, does it? Probably, but I doubt you can make enough to reach it. Is it offering more loot? No, Stowe exclaimed. Okay, let's try this. Tibs, repeat exactly what I say. Jekyll, please do not stay past the end of your run. Tibs raised an eyebrow at the ceiling. When Stowe didn't explain himself, he repeated the words. Jekyll stared at him, then looked up. Really? You think asking me nicely is enough? You have met me, right? Stowe groaned. What about if I add a little something for Krosef? Can you do that? Tibs asked. Stowe was slow in responding. I've already made it, actually. But don't tell him that. I'm worried he's going to keep it for himself. If you agree, Stowe will add something for Krosef. What is it? Jekyll demanded suspiciously. We'll find out when you get your pouch, Tibs replied before Stowe could say anything. And I only get it if I agree to leave once the time for the run runs out. Promise to leave, Karina stated. Each run, Tibs added. Promise to leave on each run, Jekyll corrected darkly. The second letter? You brightened. Okay. I promise to leave once the time runs out each time we have a run. That's it? Ms. asked in surprise. No arguing? No trying to find a way around to get more than you should? It's for Crow, Jekyll replied, beaming. I'm not going to deny him a present. He's going to be so grateful that he's going to do that. I don't want to hear that, Tibs said. I'm kind of curious as to what Crow will do. Stowe said, humans have really odd rituals. It's them time, Tibs said. That's none of our business, declared the fighter, no matter how willing someone is to talk about it. Grinning, Jekyll raised his hand in defeat. Now that's settled. How about we get on to the reward giving? After you've done the room you are going for, Sto said. I can't wait to see how you work that one out, Tibs. Are you hoping Jekyll's going to die there and you won't have to give him his reward? Aye, Jekyll protested. No, Sto replied, offended. It doesn't change anything if I give it to him now or not. If he dies, I get the essence back. Oh, it changes something, Penny said. No offense, Tibs, but that guy needs to learn some patience. If the price is him getting hurt, I'm all for it. Hurt, not dead. Tibs could deal with that. You're getting the reward as part of winning the game behind the board crest, Tibs said, crouching to start crouching at the start of the hall they needed to take. Tibs, the lion's room is on through this hall, Jekyll said. I said we're doing the boar's room, Tibs said. Yeah, but you can do that after the lion and dragon's room. Tibs looked over his shoulder. Are you willing to risk Crow's gift on me having enough time to figure out the trigger pattern that will get us there, the lock, and puzzle that will the dragon room List wars that all right, let's see. Are you willing to risk Crow's gift on me having enough time to figure out the trigger pattern that will get us there? A lock and puzzle that will unlock the dragon room and get us to the boar's crest and win that. Just so you can have a few more loot. So you can have more loot. Jekyll narrowed his eyes. That's playing nasty, Tibs. Tibs smiled. There's going to be fights and caches along the way. You'll have plenty of loot. Now, pay attention. These are the shapes we need to avoid on the way to the next room. You are not staying behind to unlock the hallways? Rena asked. You're waiting after the fight, all right? Smith says, because we can be sure that's going to spill out into the area. Spill out of that area into the hall. Tibs got complacent, and it almost killed him. It almost got him killed. He was careful with each hall, double-checking the triggers against the paper. But after 4 battles of gnolls dropping in on them, and 1 with the people golem, walking around the corner, Tibs thought he knew what to expect when he felt the essence shift over them. Except they were still in a hall, with triggers on the floor. He made the realization as gnolls and people golem dropped from the momentary doorway. He backed away, then felt the trigger click under his foot. As he hurried to switch to fire, hoping it would offer some protection, he felt the rumble of a distant hall changing. Watch where you step, he yelled. A second later, there was an explosion as a gnoll stepped on the trigger. Tibs dodged thrown knives crystal this time and grinned as another gnoll stepped on a trigger. This one was propelled to the ceiling by the small tile that crushed there. Well, however he made them, Sto's gnoll weren't as observant as the people golem, who danced around the triggers with ease. So Tibs was going to have to deal with them himself. Fireball that engulfed the crystal teeth bathed him in comfortable heat as it exploded. And that concludes Chapter 98 of Stepping Up. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next one is going to be, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story, that's on Royal Road. If you want to read ahead of Royal Road, that's on my Patreon, where you can read up to 9 chapters ahead, depending on the tier you support me at. If you want to listen to me do these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.